It was a big weekend for IU baseball as they got out the brooms and swept Rutgers. We have Stuart Jackson in studio to talk more about their season.
And baseball wasn't the only IU team to go undefeated on the weekend. See what other teams completed their sweeps.
And find out what IU athletes took home Big Ten honors this week, coming up on Hoosier Sports Night. Welcome to this edition of Hoosier Sports Night alongside Dimitri Bubaris. I'm Sarah Beeson. Dimitri, big news with IU men's and women's basketball this upcoming week. The women's side announced today that freshman point guard Tia Albert from Marquette will be joining the squad next season.
Exactly, and on the men's side, junior point guard Yogi Ferrell is set to make his decision on whether or not he's going to enter the NBA draft on April 25th, so next Saturday.
It was announced Tuesday that Indiana football will be adding a home-and-home series with the University of Virginia in 2017 and 2018. The last time IU played the Cavaliers back in 2011, Virginia scored 11 points in the last 96 seconds and won on a last-second field goal. IU football has also already announced future out-of-conference series with UConn, Cincinnati, and Ball State.
On to the diamond. Indiana baseball got back to its winning ways with a home sweep over Rutgers Sunday. Freshman outfielder Logan Sowers earned Big Ten Freshman of the Week honors for his third time this season. The Lafayette native had a team-high 5 hits and 8 total bases, including a walk-off single in the series opener Friday. Tyler Ratz has more on the series.
After starting 2-6 in Big Ten play, the Indiana baseball team knew that they needed a spark to get them back up in the Big Ten standings. After a weekend sweep against Rutgers, that may be just what this team needs to get back headed in the right direction. Timely hitting for the Hoosiers allowed the team to jump out to an early 4-0 lead. Casey Rodriguez, who hit a first-inning home run, talked about the importance of the early inning success.
We talked about jumping on them early because they're going to come out with a lot of intensity after going down 2, so it was good to jump out and get a lead on.
Rutgers would not go away quietly, however, as the Scarlet Knights put up 4 runs on the scoreboard in the top of the 5th inning to tie the game at 4. The Hoosiers wasted no time answering, however, as in the bottom of the 5th inning, an RBI single allowed Scott Donnelly to score what would eventually be the game-winning run. With the score still 5-4 headed into the 9th, the Hoosiers handed the ball to surefire closer Ryan Halstead, who needed just 4 batters to pick up his 7th save of the season and give IU the win over Rutgers. The Hoosiers have a short rest as they head to Indiana State on Tuesday before coming back home to Bart Kaufman Field on Wednesday to take on Evansville. From Bart Kaufman Field, I'm Tyler Ratz, Hoosier Sports Night.
The 3-game series sweep was the Hoosiers' 6th all-time at Bart Kaufman Field and 5th in a Big Ten series. Indiana improves to 21-11 overall and 5-6 in conference play, climbing back to 7th in the Big Ten standings. The Hoosiers are back at it tonight at Indiana State, then come home Wednesday for another in-state matchup, this one against Evansville. Here to talk more about IU baseball is Stuart Jackson, who now joins Sarah in studio. Sarah?
Thanks, Dimitri. I'm now joined in studio with allhoosiers.com Stuart Jackson, beat reporter for the IU baseball team, here to talk about IU baseball, a team that's coming off 2 back-to-back Big Ten regular season championships and the tournament championships, now sitting at 5-6 in the Big Ten. What is different about this team that they're sitting at 5-6, 9th or 10th in the conference, whereas they've been the leaders the past 2 years?
Well, they got off to a little bit of a rough start in Big Ten play. Originally they were 2-6 until they swept Rutgers this weekend, and that's now how they're sitting at 5-6. But again, it's been kind of a rough start, but that's partially been because they've lost some key losses like Kyle Schwarber and Dustin DeMuth, the guys who were the power hitters of the team last year. That's caused them to be a little bit more creative on the base paths, and so they've experienced a lot more closer games, and their offense has had to kind of change as a result.
Is that something that they should be worried about going in the future, going into the rest of their season?
I don't think so. I mean, they were able to sweep Rutgers this weekend, and I mean, the offense has been good enough so far to put them at a winning record. Certainly, I don't think they're satisfied with being 5-6 in Big Ten, but that's it's something that they can definitely improve on. But I think their offense is good enough that it can get them some more quality wins here with the remaining Big Ten schedule.
And obviously you talked about how they just are coming off a sweep at Rutgers. They go into their next Big Ten challenge this weekend at Illinois, top team in the Big Ten. What is important about this series for IU?
Well, one thing that head coach Chris Lemonis mentioned this past weekend when I talked to him after the game was making up ground in the Big Ten, and because of that, he talked about just how important the series sweep against Rutgers was because it allowed them to do just that. So, in order for them to make up even further ground, I'd say they'd have to at least win the series against Illinois. That would put them at 7-7 in the Big Ten, which is a respectable record, and I believe with about 12 games remaining for their conference schedule, that's a solid position to be in. And I mean, it's a lot better than what they were when they entered the Rutgers series last week, sitting at 2-6.
And last question for you, Stu. Where do you see this team sitting, at the end of April, early May, when talks are of coming in postseason?
I think we'll see this team being in the Big Ten tournament and possibly getting an at-large bid for the NCAA tournament and trying to make a run on the road to Omaha. But again, we'll see. It all depends on the offensive production and even the pitching staff too. I mean, this was something that at the beginning of the season was talked about as a real strength for this team. And some of the starters like Christian Morris, who was first team All Big Ten last year, has had a little bit of a rough go, through the first half of the season, to this point. So those kinds of things will be something we'll have to watch, and that'll kind of determine whether we see them getting that at-large bid and even getting into the conference tournament to begin with.
All right. Stuart Jackson and Sarah Beeson, we're going to send it back to the desk to Dimitri.
IU softball traveled to Happy Valley this past weekend, where the Cream and Crimson recorded their first series sweep against Penn State since 2012. The Hoosiers belted 6 home runs on the series, eclipsing their previously set single-season home run mark, and extended their season total to 43 long balls, which is good enough for 7th in the conference. Junior Michelle Huber hit .750 throughout the 3 games, earning Big Ten Co-Player of the Week, the first Hoosier to be awarded this honor since 2013. Indiana travels to Ann Arbor for a 3-game series beginning on Friday against number 4 Michigan.
The IU men's golf team hosted the NYX Hoosier Invitational at the IU Golf Course in Bloomington this past weekend. Overall, the team finished 3rd out of 17. Max Tollin was the highest individual finisher, tied for 11th.
After falling to number 11 Ohio State Friday, number 41 Indiana men's tennis managed to salvage a split on the weekend by picking up a 4-2 win Sunday at Penn State. The Hoosiers are 4th in the Big Ten standings, owners of a 4-4 conference record as they play host to Purdue on Wednesday. On to the women's side, the Hoosiers got a pair of back-to-back 6-1 victories against Maryland on Saturday and Rutgers on Sunday. It was an undefeated weekend in both singles and doubles for senior Katie Kleizek, earning Athlete of the Week honors for the Big Ten. Indiana looks to carry its momentum to Madison for a match against Wisconsin as the regular season winds down.
Softball and baseball weren't the only teams to pull off sweeps over the weekend. Water polo completed their games in Princeton, New Jersey with 4 wins. The Hoosiers scored a total of 60 goals while only allowing 28 for their opponents. The lead scorer was Kelly Matthews, who recorded 14 goals in 4 games.
The number 15 ranked Indiana women's rowing team picked up dual wins over number 7 Michigan and Michigan State in Ann Arbor Saturday. The win over the Wolverines is the first in program history. The Indiana First Varsity 8 boat helped secure the wins and was acknowledged as the Big Ten Boat of the Week. Indiana travels to South Carolina for the Clemson Invitational beginning this Saturday.
We're now joined in studio by Skylar Keller for our hot take. Skylar, take it away.
Thanks for having me. The NFL draft is the first weekend in May. Who do you think is going to be the first round pick?
I think with the first overall pick, the Buccaneers are going to select Jameis Winston, Florida State quarterback, for the sole reason that he can anticipate throws better than anyone else in the draft. And on top of that, he's got a well-developed and mature football mind. I think what the Buccaneers need is a quarterback, and Jameis Winston's going to be an impactful player from day one.
All right, and I'm going to have to go with the opposite of that. I'm going to say Marcus Mariota. Like Dimitri touched on, Tampa Bay needs a quarterback, and I just think that with Jameis Winston's issues off the field, they're going to want someone who's more mature, Marcus Mariota.
I'm going to go with have to go with Jameis Winston. I believe that his off-the-field performance does not affect his on-the-field performance. With the last weekend's IU baseball sweep, what do you think the significance of that win over Rutgers has?
I think the 3-game series sweep over Rutgers was pretty important because it got Indiana back on track. Chris Lemonis pretty much emphasized the fact that Indiana needs to continue to climb up the Big Ten, considering that before this series they were one of the bottom feeders at 2-6. So now at 5-6, heading into a 3-game series against Illinois this next coming week, that's where they're going to be tested. And I think if they were able to win the series against Illinois, then they're sitting in a pretty good position. But a series sweep gets them back on track against Rutgers.
I'm going to go with the opposite of that. They lost 2 weekends ago against Michigan, that series, then lost it against Cincinnati at home. They needed these wins against Rutgers, and yes, that puts them on the right track, but Illinois coming up is the best team in the Big Ten right now, and I really don't think that the Rutgers series will tell anything until we see how they perform against Illinois.
I'm going to have to go with Sarah on this one. I definitely think that the baseball team has room to improve. Lastly, as said earlier, Yogi Ferrell is planning to announce his pro basketball and/or staying in Bloomington. What do you guys think he'll do?
I think that Yogi Ferrell is going to stay in Bloomington for his senior season. He's going to come back because if you were to look at ESPN's rankings on where Yogi stands from a draft stock perspective, he's the 85th ranked prospect, the 17th best point guard. It's a very deep class in point guards, and I think Yogi, it would behoove him to come back and not only try to improve his stock for his senior year, but also have a chance to have something special happen especially with the new draft or the new recruiting class that's come in for the Hoosiers. The Hoosiers can make some noise next year.
I'm going to have to go the opposite of that. I think he's going pro. He's announcing it in Indianapolis, his home city. Why not announce it in Bloomington if he's staying in Bloomington? Also, I don't think his stock will necessarily change that much for next year. So why not just go ahead, get what you can, take the money, and run with it?
I'm going to have to go with Dimitri. I think that Yogi will stay in Bloomington. I think that the team's going to be great next year. And with that, Dimitri wins this week.
This week of Hot Takes. Congrats, Dimitri. I'm defeated once again. That does it here for us at Hoosier Sports Night. Make sure to follow all of our coverage at IUSTV Sports on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. For Skylar Keller, Stuart Jackson, who joined us earlier, and Dimitri Bubaris, I'm Sarah Beeson. Thanks for watching.